Welcome to Mastering the Attention Economy podcast. I'm your host, Ari Lewis. Twice a week, we interview entrepreneurs, executives, and industry leaders on how to break through the noise and capture the audience's attention. Today's guest is Packy McCormick. Packy is the founder of Not Boring, a newsletter focused on the intersection of business strategy and pop culture.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm excited for the conversation.
Packy, thanks so much for joining. I think today it might make sense to first start off with talking about what your newsletter is, but after that, I really want to get into and dive deep into why you used referrals to amplify your newsletters subscribers, because I know that's really where the growth has come. But yeah, can you talk about what the Not Boring newsletter is?
Absolutely. So the Not Boring newsletter is kind of a blend of business strategy and pop culture. So I've always been a business strategy nerd, and talk to my brother about it, talk to my friends about it, my coworkers, and I kind of realized as I've been writing a newsletter, because I've been doing this for close to 15 months now, but really for the past 4 months have honed in on this. This formula is too strong of a word, but this opportunity to describe what's going on in businesses through a lens of pop culture. So for example today, I wrote about Twitter, but I talked about an old Gwyneth Paltrow movie called Sliding Doors, to talk about, kind of like the two paths that the business could go in, depending on whether or not they still had Vine active today. So it's a lot of things like that, Snap through the movie She's All That, like a bunch of topics like that. But so far so good. I've been writing the newsletter for 15 months, have kind of rebranded it Not Boring 4 months ago, and have grown from about 500 people to about 6,200 today over the past few months.
Yeah. So can you talk about, before you implemented this referral program, which I know has really been the big driver of growth for you, where were you in subscribers before that? And, what made you decide, I really want to amplify it and look into starting a referral program?
Absolutely. So, yeah, I think in about April, really when kind of it became clear that the pandemic was here to stay, I decided to go all in on the newsletter and really start growing it. At that point, I was probably about somewhere between 500 to 800 people, depending on where in the month we're talking. And so started doing a few things. The first one was an informal referral program where I, for the first time, instead of at the very bottom of the email asking people to share it, put right up top, hey, I have this goal. By the end of the year, I want to get to 1,000 subscribers. Kind of blew through that, and have been trying a bunch of other tactics since. One of the most successful thus far has been the referral program. I implemented that 3 or 4 weeks ago. And the thinking behind that was, I think the number one thing that you can do, and this is advice that you hear and you're like, no, but like, what else can you really do? But the number one thing you can do is write good content. And it starts this kind of thing where people want to share it anyway. And sometimes they'll share, sometimes they won't share. You kind of need to give them an incentive. And so the referral program here, if you're writing good content and it's something that people want to share anyway, is a really good way of just kind of supercharging your ability to get people to share. And so we put it in place 3 or 4 weeks ago. We're close to 600 referrals from that already. So 10% of the people who have ever subscribed to Not Boring over the past 15 months have come through this referral program that we put in place a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah. So, we've seen a lot of B2B, or I don't know if that's the best word, but more business type newsletters employ these referral programs. Morning Brew does it. But not many people do it. Why did you do it? Like what inspiration, did this come where like, I'm a person and I'm going to do a referral?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's really funny. I think in the individual newsletter game, just how few things people kind of try. And certainly I was like that for a while, but there's all these tactics that businesses use to grow, or that bigger newsletters use to grow, that people just kind of leave on the table. So for example, one of the things that we did before the referral that was really successful was building a landing page and launching on Product Hunt. And because, again, it's this thing where I build a relationship with the audience, I'm writing content every week, there's this kind of consistent relationship that I have with the audience. When I launch on Product Hunt, they're willing to go and upvote it and share it. And when I tweet about it, then they'll respond to the tweet, and then it grows even more and more. So anything that is growth around kind of community engagement, I think works really, really well for a newsletter. And the referral program is kind of the same way. It's just one of those things that you see a bigger business using, whether that be a newsletter like Morning Brew or The Hustle or Skim, all of which were kind of inspirations for this, or just businesses in general. Most businesses have some sort of a give one, get one program, or some way of rewarding you for telling your friends about the business, because word of mouth is such a powerful tool. And so why not steal those tactics for the newsletter itself?
So one of the things I like is your leaderboard for your referrals is public. And Hunter Walk, for those of you who don't know, is a pretty famous guy. He's a VC, and he's leading the referral leaderboard since I last checked. One, how important is it for you to have those super influencers, quote unquote, to be building your brand and referring people to it? And how do you build those relationships?
So, I mean, so much of this conversation is just going to come back to writing things that people want to read. I had no relationship with Hunter, and the night before, actually, he shared it on LinkedIn. I saw something. So Substack will tell you when somebody likes your post, and so I saw that Hunter liked something that I wrote, and then I went into his profile and saw that he had read a few of the pieces that I had written. So like, oh, that's interesting. Like, these are long pieces. The fact that he's going through, like, I don't know, maybe he'll share it, or maybe there's something there. And then he posted it on LinkedIn and Facebook the next day. And to your point, I think he's number one. He has over 100 referrals already, and he hasn't even posted on his main channel, which is Twitter. Number two is a really good friend of mine who has a big Instagram following. So being able to tap into those people who have big audiences, and I actually think Hunter's referrals will probably retain a lot better than my friend Tucker's referrals, just because that's what Hunter's audience expects. But being able to get those, I think, does supercharge the program. But there's also a really long tail of over 100 people who've referred somebody, and that's really, really valuable too. I think like the activation energy to get any one person to share is pretty high, right? Like, so out of the 6,200 people, only 100 people or so have done it so far. So if you can take that activation energy and apply it to a bigger audience, that's great. But really the goal for the program over time is just to get a higher and higher and higher percentage of that 6,200 people sharing, because the fastest way to double would be to get everybody to get me one of their smartest friends to sign up for Not Boring.
So one of the things I thought you did that's really great is you have these shirts and the stickers as sort of rewards. How did you come up with that idea? And also, how did you decide on like what the prizes were for when people hit certain thresholds for referrals?
Yeah. So, I mean, the lowest level is if you hit 10 referrals, you're Not Boring verified. You'll get a shout out in the newsletter. You'll get a link to your social profile and your company. And I think if I'm looking at somebody else's newsletter, that's actually the thing that I care about the most. And then I think, stickers at 20 and then t-shirts at 30 are just kind of things that we took from other referral programs. The t-shirt, I think, is going to be really, really cool. We're working with a designer who's a Not Boring reader on making t-shirts that are exclusive for just the referral program, so you won't be able to buy them. I think at some point we'll have a merch store and everything else, but there will be one t-shirt that is kind of cordoned off as a t-shirt that's only available to people who share Not Boring. So I think that's going to be really cool. By the end of this week, that should be designed and ready to go. And then, stickers, t-shirts, all those things are visible ways for people to show that they're kind of a part of the community, and obviously like kind of subtly spread the Not Boring word.
So anecdotally, have you seen like sort of a FOMO emerging from folks who are like, oh, I want to get, to top 5 in the leaderboard, or I want to get 20 so I can get this, exclusive t-shirt. Have you seen that?
Yeah, I think it's more the leaderboard, frankly. Like, I think the people who have gotten kind of past 30, and there's only a few of them so far, are really doing it because they want to be at the top of the leaderboard more than because they want the t-shirt. So we might be actually, increasing our CAC for no reason by providing people with these t-shirts and stickers, because the leaderboard is probably the most valuable thing, and the shout out and the email is probably the most valuable thing. I mean, I think being Hunter and being number one, every time he passes a new milestone, I'm going to call him out. And so not that he needs the free press from me, but, for somebody else who doesn't have as big an audience, I think that's even more valuable than a t-shirt or a sticker might be. The thing with the t-shirts, though, is we haven't even shown anyone what they look like, and I think they're going to be incredible. So once we do, I expect another wave of referrals to come in.
So when did you have that aha moment that, oh man, this referral, leaderboard is working?
I mean, kind of immediately. Like we put it up and people started sharing, and so getting to see the first kind of GrowSurf referrals come in for all of this, because I'm a crazy person. Like if somebody subscribes to the newsletter, I get an email and I look at it pretty much right away. If someone disables the newsletter, I get an email, I look at it right away. And GrowSurf, the tool that we used, and we can talk more about GrowSurf, but GrowSurf, the tool that we use, sends an email every time a referral comes in. And so my inbox was just full of these referral emails from GrowSurf that all kind of have like a clapping hand emoji in them. So my inbox just turned kind of yellow pretty immediately. And that's when I knew that it was probably going to work.
So yeah, can you talk more about like why did you decide on GrowSurf, and what features differentiated from others out there?
Yeah, I think overall GrowSurf is pretty easy. So our whole stack is, we have and I keep saying I'm working with a friend named Tommy on this who did a lot of the work on the referral program, but our stack is a Webflow site that we built with the help of a guy named James McNabb, who's a really talented designer and builder, no code, end code, who's a not boring reader. That probably took us, a day working together because he's a pro. And then GrowSurf, which just easily plugs in to that site. And so we love the leaderboard functionality. We love the ability to send emails to the group through GrowSurf. But otherwise, it's really, we saw it. It looks like it works. It looks like it'll be easy to plug in. Let's go for it. I really want to keep, with Not Boring, trying all of these things that other people haven't tried, because I think there's two benefits. And I think the everything bundle has been really, really smart about this, but two benefits to doing things like the referral program or a landing page or bundling this kind of early in this new world of Substack newsletters is that if you try something that other people haven't tried, other people in the newsletter community are going to see it and write about it and talk about it. And so the more things that we can try, the more kind of free press that we're getting from doing those things.
Yeah. And one of the things that was interesting is, you're talking about learnings, is you open sourced your ideas around the referral program. Why were you transparent about building it, and how did that help grow your newsletter?
I've been transparent with kind of all of this from day one. So when it was 100 people, I'd be like, it'd be great if we get to 105 people, and have been really transparent about the whole process. I think it just makes it more fun, one, for everybody to feel like they're involved. And so I've gotten that feedback from readers over and over again, that they're like, I don't know why it's a newsletter, but I really want to help this thing grow. And so like that's part of it. And like there's nothing diabolical. It's just naturally how I'm inclined is to share. My wife is always like, gosh, you're like giving away way too much information about like your personal life, and like, please don't give away your social security number. But that's just kind of naturally how I am. But it really does kind of build this sense of kind of community and camaraderie and a shared kind of struggle towards a goal. Number two, though, I think, one of the things that I write about a lot is this, that on the internet, you can be a really, 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 really big business. So you can be like, as Ben Thompson would call it, an aggregator, like a Facebook or a Google, or you can make a lot of money being a really, 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 really small business. And so I spend a lot of time on Mondays writing about really big companies. But then when we're doing things for Not Boring, I really like to get tactical, because it's something that pretty much everybody in the audience and everybody who's reading can apply to the thing that they are doing themselves. So whether a reader is writing their own newsletter, whether they're starting a podcast, they're all things that they can do and apply like tomorrow to the thing that they're doing. So I like to add value in kind of those two different ways. Like, one, here's a really fun way to think about this company, and like maybe you'll want to invest in this public company. But then also, here's this thing that tomorrow you can apply to your small business.
So one of the things that it sounds like, you've done a good job of over the past, year plus, is narrowing down, what your newsletter is about, what, you're writing on. When should someone go, oh, I should introduce a referral program? Is it they're still trying to figure out what they're writing about? Is it after you really have a narrow, view of, this is what I write about, only this, and this is how it's explained, and here's the value proposition behind it?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that you need to have in place when you have a referral program is the ability for somebody to explain to their friends and audiences why they should be signing up for this thing that they're recommending. And so, in the beginning, if I had done it, I used to call the email per my last email, and it was a bunch of links and occasional analysis. And I don't know how somebody would have described it. And, they would have said, here, this is my friend's newsletter, maybe. Now someone can say, hey, I learned a ton from this thing about business strategy every Monday when I read it. I loved the analysis on Snap last week, and you should sign up too because he keeps writing these things. And so I think you should do it when it's really easy for somebody to explain the value that they get out of your newsletter.
Got it. And yeah, that makes a ton of sense in terms of, that value proposition. For most of the folks that are, referring, do you think they are able to explain it in such a succinct way, in the way that you're able to explain it? Or do you think that it's still a learning curve? And like, do you have to empower the referrers to know, like, here are the tools on like how to best practices on referring folks?
Yeah, I think that's definitely, it's one of the things that's built into GrowSurf is it'll, you can give the social preview, whether that's on a tweet or an email, and you can just hit click and it'll populate and it'll say whatever you want them to say. But I've also seen that people referring the newsletter do a hell of a lot better job of describing it than I do in many cases. And then I'll steal language from people who are talking about the newsletter. So I think it's, you should never be prescriptive and say like, you have to describe my newsletter this way. One, you can't control it. But two, I think just people hearing it in people's own words, what they get out of the newsletter is really valuable and also helps shape kind of the content and the direction that we take this thing.
Yeah, I guess if you had to do it all over again, what are some of the lessons that you've learned? What would you do the same and what would you do differently?
The referral program specifically?
Yeah, referral program specifically.
Yeah, so I mean, one real kind of pain with it is that because I write on Substack, nothing plugs into Substack. So maybe, if I were really starting something from day one with the intention of growing and using things like a referral program, I might use something like a MailChimp. I like Substack for a whole host of reasons that we can get into, but certainly it doesn't make growing outside of just kind of sharing links to your Substack easy. So that's one, is think about how you want to grow and then think about the right tools from the beginning to be able to do that. Two, I do kind of wish that we had designed the t-shirts ahead of time. That's a trade-off. We wanted to go fast. And so we were just like, let's launch this thing and we'll design the t-shirts later. But I think if people can visualize like, oh, I'm going to be getting this thing, then it makes them maybe more likely to try to get to that 30 person, 30 referral level. At the same time, now we have kind of a program reactivation tool where once the t-shirts are designed, we'll send out an email and say like, look, this is the prize. So I think that one could go either way. But yeah, I think it's been surprisingly easy, other than having to like download all the emails from GrowSurf every day and then dump them into a Google Doc and then dump that Google Doc into Substack. Other than like kind of the nitty gritty, it'll take me 10 minutes at the end of the day to just take in emails from the different sources. It's been really easy overall.
That's great to hear. And I guess, my last question for you is what tips would you have or how would you coach someone through, hey, I'm looking to implement this for myself. Where should they start? Where would you recommend, and I know we touched on this a bit, but I guess at a sort of a summary of that.
So I use GrowSurf, and I think that's super easy. And they have a guy over there who will respond on chat to almost any questions. And they really do. I think like using customer support is probably across the board with a lot of these tools, an under-leveraged resource where they'll tell you how to do kind of everything. So use GrowSurf. We've liked it so far a lot. Webflow, super easy. I think one of the best investments you can make as someone who's trying to create something for yourself right now is just spending a couple of days watching the amazing tutorials on Webflow and just getting a level of comfort. I'm not technical at all, and now I can spin up a Webflow site in a day or two. Luckily, we got help from a friend here, and it's better than what I could have done on my own, but I've launched Webflow sites, and it's great, and it makes it really easy. And then, I'm definitely a proponent of open sourcing the process. And so walk your audience through why you're doing a referral program and how valuable it is to you and how much it means to you that, you're not just growing by paying for ads and getting a bunch of random people in. You're asking people to share their friends and connections with you. And so I think letting people know how much that means to you and why you're doing it that way is really valuable.
Yeah, it's a great answer. Really appreciate that. Packy, thank you so much for coming on today. For those who maybe want to subscribe to your newsletter or want to follow you on social media, where can they find you?
Yeah, so on Twitter, I'm at PackyM, PACKYM. And then the newsletter is notboring.substack.com. So plain and simple, don't love giving my domain to Substack. You can also sign up at notboring.email. But check it out. I send every Monday and Thursday, have great guest writers, and we're just experimenting in real time. So come along for the ride.
Great. Well, thanks again for joining us, and until next time, everyone.
Thanks for having me.